Pilipinas. Buon pomeriggio, Italia. First of all, how are you, Mirko?
I am fine, and differently from the Philippines. Here in Italy, it's sunny, shiny, and very hot.
Wow, that's nice. Welcome to our conversation. So let's begin with my questions. Now, since the spread of the coronavirus pandemic worldwide affecting millions of people and killing thousands of COVID patients, the race to the COVID vaccine has been a trending topic, hoping that this inoculation will flatten the medical curve and would bring back global citizens to the new normal lifestyle. Now, originally, China, the US, and Germany were poised to come out as leaders in the political vaccine race. Then all of a sudden, Russia made a worldwide headline about the Sputnik 5, the vaccine endorsed by President Putin as his homage to the world's first satellite launched by the Soviet Union. Now, what do you think are the political reasons why Russia has to make a mark on this human race to survival, likened to its success in the Cold War era space, despite the deficiency on completing the final trials and concerned raised on the plan to start mass manipulations as soon as October? Your comments about that?
Okay, so let me say that fortunately now here in Italy the situation is getting better. If I may speak about Europe. So the news were hit by Russian vaccine, and after the Chinese one, and it seems that it's getting very political, as we may
Yeah, I
expect
understand it. Yeah, right.
from like this vaccine that maybe can restore some kind of normality around the world.
Mm,
Here in this country, in Italy, which was in the spotlight some months ago, there is really political skirmishes over whether to reopen. Like some days ago, they just closed down all the ballroom, all the dance room, all the discos, and young people, they are losing again jobs.
mm,
They are the like practically COVID-19 first hit the young people by making them lose their job in the first wave, and now
right.
they are losing again jobs. But getting back to the vaccine,
Mm,
obviously in Italy it's less political. This country
okay.
is not like a first tier country in
Mm,
sense of geopolitical importance, like for example Russia,
mm,
America, or even UK. We are just
right.
like a regional power.
Mm,
If I may do a parallel, we are like kind of the Philippines, but in Europe. We are
mm-hmm,
very
mm-hmm,
middle power without any kind of desire to hit the
mm,
geopolitical spot. So here the vaccine is more like a global good. Like we consider the vaccine as a global good. We
yeah.
work usually throughout the framework of the UN, of the European Union. And the trials for the vaccine here in Italy, they are going forward.
Mm,
They seem to be positive. I obviously, from a clinical point of view, I don't know
mm,
what is the difference between the vaccine in Italy and the vaccine in Russia and China. But
right.
if I may tell you something, obviously the vaccine in Russia and China is highly political.
Right,
Highly political.
but do you think Russia intended to be the first one to produce something like this? Because, it's very political,
I
as you
believe
said.
so. I believe so. I believe so. We are approaching to the American elections. They are fighting very harshly, and the history of Trump with Russia,
Right.
and as the American elections are approaching, Russia made a show of force, maybe like
Mm,
this is everything is a maybe, like I can't tell you for
right,
sure
right, right.
Russia did it for a political empire and PR reason, but I am
Mm,
pretty much sure that something is behind, like why they have raised so quickly, why they are fast tracking this
yeah,
vaccine. Obviously, there are clinical and economic reasons
yeah,
that, like if you have a vaccine, people can restart to work properly, they can go to the office, we can
yeah.
stop this madness of social and physical distancing, because there is difference between social distancing and physical distancing. Everywhere in the news I am reading that we need to practice social distancing. No, absolutely no. There is
Mm,
no such thing as social distancing. We are practicing physical distancing. And physical distancing is harming businesses, it's harming the services sector, it's harming the entertainment sector, because you may think that it's not moral, the discos, the clubs, nightclubs, they are not moral, so whatever, but they are giving jobs to people, especially to young people. And from a clinical point of view, to find a vaccine is the right way.
Right,
However,
right. Go ahead, please.
However, I firmly believe that there is a difference between being cautious and being in panic. You know, like waiting, when there is the vaccine, we can get back finally to normal life. Like, are you serious? Like, are we serious on this issue? Like, seriously, we believe that, vaccines, to be serious, a vaccine needs at least like 4 years of trials. I am not a doctor. I am no expert in vaccine trials. I am a reader of the Wall Street Journal, of the South China Morning Post, like we all, people interested in global affairs and in politics. And I have read that in order to have a proper vaccine, you need 4 years of trials and errors. Like here, we are running madly towards this vaccine. We don't know how much it is safe. We don't know nothing about it. Maybe it's safe, maybe it's not. But the issue that we can go back to normal life only after a vaccine is found, it's completely crazy. It's completely dumb. Obviously I have respect for that people. I have respect for the people that have suffered. We have acknowledged here in Italy how damaging and how dangerous can be this COVID-19. We had 35,000 died people, people in intensive care units and everything. We know all the rhetoric around it. But let's be serious.
Yeah, I agree with all those kinds of assumptions and basically those narratives there. But nonetheless, in the UK, they have this vaccine also that is sponsored by the Oxford University. And how would you describe now the Russian version of their vaccine compared to the British? Do you think which one is more scientifically based and that would share values in helping the humanity in terms of the production of the vaccine?
Oh, now I am obviously biased. I am very I am very pro-Western. The vaccines which is developing in Oxford is made with a little medical firm in Italy, in a city near Rome. It's called Pomezia. And obviously I am biased, and the obvious answer to your very clever question is obviously the vaccines which is developing in Oxford and in Italy. From a clinical point of view, obviously I have told you, the Russian vaccines seem like too much political. I am not that kind of dude that say, I hate Russians because they are not democratic. I understand Russia. I have a lot of friends which have been to Russia, which study Russia, which they are reporters in Russia. And Russia is a very complex country, and you can't really summarize Russia in the figure of Putin and some other oligarchs. Russia, it's a very religious country, firm in its Orthodox. They have a large Muslim community. They have a long history. They are very complex, and we can't really summarize Russia by the actions taken in, I don't know, Ukraine or now in Belarus, Chechnya or wherever. Russia, it's an important country.
It's
very rich.
It is. I agree with you. It's a great
potentially
power.
It can be a very rich country if it's better governed, better managed. It's a great country. It has been a great power, one of the greatest power of the world, together with the USA. And taking Russia is just like a shithole country. It's not fair for Russia. It's not fair for Russians. Sorry for shithole, but sometimes
right. But I agree with you.
It's not better to express the words. But obviously, I believe from a clinical point of view, and from if you ask me what will be the vaccine that can have a better impact on the world, on the safety of the humanity, I would say the vaccine which is developing in Oxford and in Italy. But obviously around the world now there is in India, they are developing 3
there's another one.
vaccines, and one they are developing, they are testing on Bangladeshi people, and that
So the Bangladeshi are the guinea pigs for the Indian vaccine there. But I think India is also collaborating with Oxford University. But
it's Chester, like I love nations. Like this is a great argument. This is like the vaccine. Obviously, it's a clinical and medical argument, but it's also a great argument to understand that the liberal narrative of we are living in a peaceful world in which there has to be some kind of public goods managed by the UN or some kind of over-regional organization, it's not really true. Like we are getting back to a period in which the states, the country, the nation states, they are getting back their power. Like this is like COVID-19, like from like supplies of masks and ventilators, they are demonstrating these hard times that there is no such thing as international organizations. When states and countries and nation states, they are facing these hardships, the only family which they can count on, it's their national family. I don't want to be I don't want to be
nationalistic.
It's not even nationalistic. It's like if it's raining and you don't have a shelter, what will be the first people that you want to save? It's your family. It's a natural instinct.
Yeah, protectionism, right?
Not even protectionism. Like I am speaking about natural tendency to protect your national community first. I'm not speaking about America first policy in trade or something. I'm speaking about like surviving instinct. Like if we speak about trade policy, obviously I am more for the free market. I prefer a free market approach in which nation can cooperate and in exchanging goods and financial services.
But going back, because your argument is about the safety of the families first, because of course everyone is survival of the fittest here, right? But my question is like this.
Yes.
Now, assuming that UK, Italy, and perhaps Germany are able to produce this vaccine, the question is, can Europe secure the supply chain and the logistics of rolling out a vaccine to 7 billion people worldwide?
This is another issue, and here again we are touching a very important argument of national sovereignty. Medical supplies are supplied by China mostly.
Right.
Because why? Because in the past, European countries and European firms have brought their firms in China. Now, why nation states found difficult to produce masks, to produce ventilators, to produce every kind of medical equipment which could have been useful in fighting against COVID-19? Because they weren't ready. In Italy, there was only one tiny, very tiny factory that produced the ventilators. Is it possible? Like, it's not like, I agree with Nassim Taleb, like this is not a black swan. That kind of epidemic, it was foreshadowed, like a lot of people wrote about epidemics. We had SARS, we had the swine fever, we had all kind of diseases going around the world in the last, not 100 years, in the last 20 years. So like could have government prevent this disaster? Yes, obviously they couldn't foresee COVID-19. But they could amass masks, they could amass ventilators, they could amass medical equipments to better manage the epidemic emergency. But this didn't happen because the states, thanks to the rhetoric of thanks to the liberal rhetoric and thanks to the global village rhetoric in which the nation states were dissolving in and they were liquefying in, nation state didn't stockpile strategic reserves of ventilators, of masks, of medical equipments. And so epidemic damaged the economy of Europe. We are seeing now. So this is another argument. And if we speak about vaccines, sincerely, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if Europe has the industrial capacity to supply 7 billion people. Well, because the ruling classes in Europe believe that industry, that manufacturing, it's not for the Western world anymore. Manufacturing is for developing countries.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? We only do higher value work, research, and that kind of stuff.
I agree, but if that happens with the manufacturing going to developing countries, in which case, when they will develop all those vaccine there, then those who will benefit from the vaccine are from the developing countries.
Yes, obviously.
Now, there's a brewing US-China Cold War factor here. And in case Russia becomes successful in the Sputnik 5, Russia will become the third wheel in the US-China stiff relations. Now, how do you see this?
I don't think so. Sincerely, I don't think so. Russia, it's Russia does not have the power to challenge, to launch
China or the US?
Against China or the US. Like now the challenge is between US and China. Okay. And Russia can decide to bandwagon with one of these, but Russia cannot stand alone against China or the US. It can. Right. Sincerely, Russia, I respect Russia as a powerful country.
Of course.
But Russia has half the economy of Italy. It's a no-go, it's a no-go.
Yeah, I agree with you. But there was a proposal from India that for Russia to join the US-led Indo-Pacific strategy and the Quad or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. I think, although this is not far away from the talk about the vaccine here, but I think it has implications on the political dynamics worldwide. Now, the question is how Russia will behave on this if in case it allows itself to be with the US-led Indo-Pacific strategy or in the Quad.
I believe that now Russia has different problems. Russia's core foreign policy. Obviously, the Far East and the Indo-Pacific region, it's very important. But obviously, it's vastly more important for the US than for Russia.
I agree.
And the risk for Russia is to overstretch. Russia doesn't have the capacity. Russia is supporting Syria. It's still like there are still skirmishes in Ukraine. There are now the skirmishes in Belarus. Sincerely, I believe that in Belarus there will be a transition. However, we have to understand what kind of transition.
Right. I agree.
Russia has a policy in which the former countries, except for the countries which now are in the European Union, such as Poland, Hungary, that kind of countries which are more European. But for example, in countries like Belarus, Ukraine, Georgia, Kazakhstan, in that country, Russia has a upper hand, has a leverage. And in Belarus also they have leverage for oil and gas, for energy, for reserves, for trade and export. Now there has been these elections in which Lukashenko won by 90% a landslide, obviously rigged and faked election. Trust me.
I agree with that.
Completely fake elections. And the people are going in the streets. The people are rioting, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not. People are dying in the streets. Obviously, we don't have a scenario like Euromaidan in Ukraine when protesters they have European flags while in Euromaidan. In this case, in Belarus, they are not asking for the intervention of the EU and the US, but EU and the US, they are trying to say, we need a democratic transition, which it means I want a government which is pro-European.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
In that case, when Russia hear this kind of stuff, they are getting nervous because this is their backyard. Okay, this is their backyard. Like Belarus, it's the only dictatorship in Europe. It's not a great country. It's just a Russia backyard. Okay.
Right.
And obviously, they are sovereign, they are not dependent from Russia politically, but Russia considers Belarus as its backyard. And if Europe or Western powers, they want to have a say in the future of Belarus, because I believe that Lukashenko will be forced to fly the country as soon as possible. When Lukashenko will fly the country, they need to find a transition. They need to understand where they want to go. They want to stay again in the influence sphere of Russia, or they want to remain, or they want to slowly but surely go towards Europe and the West. So this is the problem, and Russia will make sure that Belarus will remain in Russia's sphere of influence. Russia doesn't give a damn about the futures of Lukashenko. Russia just wants to have Belarus in the sphere of influence, full stop.
Yeah. Now, maybe for my last question here, you started with your narrative about the success story of your country in Italy, and from becoming an epicenter of the coronavirus in Europe to a role model in flattening the curve. Now, tell me, what are the best practices that Italy has done so far? Can you share your observations with us?
Okay, so we have done a strict lockdown, stricter than the other, and these have helped, but don't get fooled by the numbers. Let's observe like Italy is a success story, yes or no? In Italian, we say ni, like no and si, like ni. Why? Because obviously we are the country which flattened the curve, but we have at least 530 died people per million of inhabitants, which is higher than Brazil, higher than the US, maybe the same as the UK, higher than Spain, higher than France, obviously higher than Germany, higher than the Philippines, higher than Indonesia. So let's not be fooled by the narrative. Obviously, in the end, we flatten the curve, but at what cost? At what cost? And especially in Italy, the news are very biased, because they are celebrating and they are trumpeting the success of our nation against COVID, and meanwhile they are blaming the unsuccessful policies of both Bolsonaro and Trump and Johnson. But let's have a look at the number of million of the dead people per million of inhabitants in Brazil, in the US, and in Italy. The numbers in Italy are higher than Brazil and higher than the US. So who has, the fact is, who has managed better the emergency? Obviously, we have also a factor of the fact that here we have a lot of old people. Maybe and this virus has been very aggressive against old people, especially in retirement houses. So, but if we look at the number are shameful for my country. Obviously, they are shameful also for Brazil and for the US, but less shameful than for my country.
Okay, I think it's very intense conversation here so far, talking about Europe's political response to the vaccine race. And ladies and gents, that is Mirko Giordani, political risk and strategic intelligence analyst. And my
and
good friend, thank you very
and
much.
also host and also a
Yeah,
host
you're a
of
podcaster just like me. Yeah, yeah.
where Chester has been also a guest.
Yeah, thank you very much. Grazie mille mio, buon Mirko. Thanks, my good friend.
Grazie, ciao ciao.